When you think about the biggest challenge AI presents, what what pops into your head first? Is it jobs? Or maybe those ethical questions we hear so much about, or creativity. Well, what if the real immediate crisis, the one kind of lurking under the surface, is way more fundamental? What if it's energy? Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something that's, well, it's fascinating, but also maybe a little unsettling. It's AI's hidden, absolutely huge appetite for energy and what that actually means for, well, all of us. You sent over this really insightful source, AI's Energy Dilemma, a looming global crisis, and honestly, it's given us a lot to think about. It really challenges some common ideas.
It really does. And what's so striking about it, I think, is how this deep dive shows the cost of AI isn't just, computing power or potential social changes. It's fundamentally a resource problem, a big one. It touches pretty much everything in our global setup. So our mission today is to pull out the key insights from this material for you. We want to help you get the core arguments, why they matter day to day, think your power bill, your quality of life even, and maybe even what it could mean for your finances down the line. We'll dig into how AI's energy needs are lining up to force some major global trade-offs, and crucially, just how fast this whole situation seems to be developing.
Okay, so the first really big takeaway from this source, it's a genuine eye-opener. It kind of flips the script on most AI conversations, doesn't it? The article argues pretty strongly that AI's biggest hidden cost isn't jobs or even just the ethics, though those are important. The core issue, the really foundational one it points to, is just this massive, relentless demand for energy.
Yeah, and if you connect that to the bigger picture, it's all about the physical stuff, the infrastructure needed. These data centers running AI, they aren't just a couple of servers humming away. They're massive, like
Yeah.
digital factories running 24/7. The source really highlights that these places, especially the ones training the biggest AI models, need enormous amounts of electricity. We're talking consumption levels similar to whole cities.
Entire cities, wow.
Yeah, and there are even projections mentioned, looking out to 2030, that the global AI sector alone might need as much power as, say, India.
That's staggering.
It is, and it's not just running the computers, it's the processing, the complex calculations, but also maybe the biggest energy hog is cooling. All that computing generates a ton of heat, right?
And yeah.
And getting rid of that heat takes a huge amount of energy itself.
Right, right. And this is where it gets really interesting, I thought. The source brings us back to this very basic, almost primal truth we sometimes forget when we talk about high-tech stuff, which is energy is the economy. Simple as that, but huge implications.
Yeah.
If you look back historically, global GDP, population growth, living standards, they all track pretty much directly with how much energy we use. More energy means growth, innovation, better lives. Less energy, well, that means contraction, things slowing down, maybe even population decline eventually. So this isn't just an AI problem. It's about the engine of society itself, the literal power behind, modern life.
Which then leads to the critical question, right? Can our current energy systems actually keep up with this kind of surge in demand? And the analysis in the sources, well, it's pretty stark. Even without AI exploding onto the scene, global energy demand is already rising steadily. Population growth, developing economies coming online.
Sure.
But you throw AI into that mix, the projection is that demand could just spike incredibly fast.
Yeah.
So fast that our current ways of supplying energy just can't keep pace. The source paints it like AI's growth is this exponential curve doubling capabilities every few months, needing more power, hitting a supply chain for energy that grows much, much slower, mostly linear.
Okay, so it's a fundamental mismatch.
A huge mismatch, and potentially leading to a serious crunch much sooner than a lot of people might think.
So, okay, if we need more energy, why can't we just build more? More power plants, drill for more oil, get more gas. It sounds like a straightforward supply and demand issue, right? Something we could solve with money and innovation. But the article points to something critical, something easily overlooked. Speed.
Exactly. Speed is the bottleneck. It's not necessarily that we've run out of resources entirely. Oil, gas, nuclear fuel, there are still reserves, and renewables are growing, but they have their own challenges with infrastructure, intermittency.
Right.
The critical constraint, which the source details really well, is how fast you can get these resources out of the ground, processed, and plugged into the grid. Building major new energy infrastructure, think big nuclear plants, large hydro dams, takes years, often a decade, sometimes even longer.
A decade or more.
Yeah, from planning, getting approvals, environmental studies, construction, grid connection. You can't just rush that process massively. And that timeline just fundamentally doesn't match AI's growth. AI models getting twice as complex, needing twice the power every few months.
But Yeah, filling a swimming pool with a teaspoon while the water's draining out faster.
That's a good way to put it. The scale and speed are just completely off.
Okay, so this speed limit,
Mm.
it leads to a really uncomfortable idea the source floats, a kind of tug of war, a tug of war between us, humans, and AI for the available energy. The suggestion is that governments might increasingly see AI as a crucial national security thing,
Hmm.
for defense, economic edge, staying ahead globally.
Definitely.
And that could force some really tough choices about where the power goes.
And what that could mean in really practical terms for you and me. Well, it means energy might get shifted more towards data centers, towards industrial AI, and less towards homes or small businesses.
So not just higher bills, but actual availability issues.
Potentially, yes. The source suggests this isn't just hypothetical. It could lead to a future with different kinds of rationing in our daily lives. Imagine, say, your air conditioning being limited during heat waves. Or maybe your smart thermostat gets automatically dialed back during peak times because the grid capacity is needed elsewhere.
Wow.
Or think about restrictions on flights, maybe higher water costs because water's being diverted to cool server farms.
Right.
Or even in extreme cases, scheduled blackouts for residential areas to keep critical AI systems running for national security reasons.
That directly hits quality of life.
Absolutely, driven by this potential national need to keep the AI running.
Yeah, and this isn't just happening inside countries, is it? There's a whole global dimension, a geopolitical angle that makes this energy fight even messier, like a global chess game with energy pieces.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The article lays out this picture of a global scramble for energy. You see some nations like China being very aggressive in securing energy deals abroad. Often they're trading infrastructure projects in developing countries for long-term access to resources.
Probably locking up supply.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the U.S. faces different risks. The source points out that even though the U.S. produces a lot of energy, it might be exporting too much, particularly natural gas. If domestic AI demand really takes off, like predicted, the U.S. could find itself in its own energy crunch, maybe even needing to import energy back at much higher prices.
So different countries, different strategies, potentially very different outcomes.
Very different. It shapes global power dynamics. It's not just about who develops the smartest AI, but who actually has the reliable energy to power it consistently.
Okay, so given all this potential energy crunch, what does it mean for our wallets, for investments, financial planning? This shifts from how we live to how we maybe need to adapt financially.
Well, the source suggests a pretty direct economic consequence. When supply just can't keep up with demand for something as essential as energy, prices become the release valve. They have to go up.
Makes sense.
This points towards potentially significant long-term upside for commodities. Not just oil and gas, although those are obvious. The article also highlights things like copper, absolutely vital for building out and upgrading electrical grids.
Ah, right, the wiring.
Exactly. And lithium for batteries, which are key for storage, especially with renewables, and other rare earth minerals needed for all the electronics, the renewable tech itself. So if you follow the source's economic logic, sustained scarcity plus that exponential AI demand, it points towards potentially higher prices for a long time, maybe even a new commodity supercycle.
That's a big signal for investors.
A very big signal to consider, yes.
But interestingly, the article also warns against just falling into herd behavior, right?
Yeah.
Like just automatically buying the dip in the S&P 500 might not be the safe bet here. Feels like the standard advice, but the source says historically in big inflationary periods like the 70s, broad stock markets actually didn't do that well. They underperformed.
That's a key point they make. It suggests we need a more thoughtful, maybe even counterintuitive investment approach in this kind of environment.
So how should investors think about responding, according to this analysis? What are the strategic levers?
The source lays out three main ideas. First, make smarter bets based on this new energy reality. That means looking beyond just the big tech names. Maybe look at companies solving the problems this creates, like companies making data centers way more energy efficient, or innovators in upgrading the power grid.
Okay, focus on the solutions.
Second, focus on what the source calls asymmetric bets, investments where the potential upside is really high, but the downside risk is somewhat limited or controlled. Think maybe smaller, nimbler companies working on critical niche technologies. Novel cooling systems for servers, perhaps, or companies using less common energy sources like geothermal, or maybe small modular nuclear reactors that could potentially be deployed faster than the giant ones.
Interesting. Higher potential, managed risk.
And the third lever, which they stress is crucial, is timing. mastering when to buy and sell, understanding commodity cycles, anticipating government policy shifts around energy and AI that becomes really important for protecting capital and finding growth. It's not just what you own, but when you own it. And wrapping all that up is a core message about diversification. It seems even more critical now. The analysis warns against going all in on just one asset, even something like gold or Bitcoin. They might have a role, but they carry risks in this kind of volatile environment.
So don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Pretty much. A better strategy, according to the source, is balancing your portfolio. Hold some energy-related assets, production, infrastructure, efficiency, tech. But also balance that with other things that tend to hold up against inflation. Maybe certain types of real estate, like productive land or specific infrastructure funds. The goal is resilience. Build a portfolio that can handle the economic shifts this energy dilemma might cause.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. The big picture from this source seems pretty clear, doesn't it? AI is almost certainly going to stay a top priority for governments, for corporations. It's seen as essential for security, for the economy.
Seems likely, yes.
And the probably result, according to this analysis, is a period of energy getting tighter, scarcer, which means higher prices. And ultimately, being forced to make trade-offs between powering our amazing new machines and, well, supporting human living standards. It's a pretty stark picture.
It is stark, and the author's conclusion in the source material really drives that home. It's basically a call to get ready. Prepare personally, prepare financially, and do it now. Because this doom loop they describe, where AI demand keeps outrunning energy supply, they argue it's coming fast.
Not some far-off sci-fi future.
No, they frame it as a trajectory we're already on. Ignoring it means risking being caught completely off guard by some potentially major disruptions to how we live and manage our finances.
So as you think about everything we've dug into today, this whole AI energy dilemma, we want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. If national security really does push governments to prioritize AI's energy needs over, say, keeping your home cool in the summer, what personal trade-offs would you actually be willing to make? And maybe more practically, what concrete steps, even small ones, could you start taking today to secure your own energy future, both in a literal sense and a financial one?